Welcome back. KwaZulu-Natal's Human Settlements Department has disputed claims that funds allocated to storm damage haven't been fully spent. The Democratic Alliance in the province says millions of rands dispersed in 2017 and again in early 2019 were specifically for the reconstruction and repair of houses damaged by storms. Scores of residents remain homeless after heavy rains hit the province. Others are still picking up the pieces after a tornado left a trail of destruction recently, the fourth in a matter of days. To discuss this further, we're joined now by DA KZN Human Settlements Spokesperson Meyer, as well as Mdu Zungu, who's the head of the Department for KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements. They are both in our Durban Studios. Thanks very much for joining us, to both of you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Martin, let's begin with you. Your party released a statement wanting the MEC to answer to this, and you quoted that the finding forms part of a disaster report presented to KZN's Human Settlements Portfolio Committee last month. Talk us through this document. What exactly does it say?
Good morning. Thank you so much. And we first also just say congratulations to the HOD who's been newly appointed to the position. And I understand he's inherited this problem as well. The situation is that the October 2017 storms wreaked havoc in the Ugu district and the eThekwini district of KwaZulu-Natal. Money was then released in the case of eThekwini in 3 stages to be released over 3 years. eThekwini especially, and the Ugu district as well, has failed to spend the first amount, which combined was about 100 million rand. And because that hasn't been fully spent, or the documentation hasn't been presented, and all those other issues that is related to that, the next amount that's supposed to have been released this financial year could not be released. That's more than 200 million rand. Our concern is that these are real people who are suffering because of the storm damage that was 2 years ago in 2017, and that are still waiting for the help that has been promised to them. The situation is, even though we acknowledge that it's the municipalities that has to do the work, the province still has a responsibility as the one that's releasing these funds to make sure the work is done and to hold these municipalities to account.
So this is, we're talking about money that has been given to help and assist, and it has not been spent, which is very, very difficult to comprehend when we can actually see the devastation that's been caused. If I may just continue with you quickly, Martin, who actually compiled this disaster report? Were your representatives also part of the team that put the information together?
So the report was presented to the committee, to the Oversight Committee or the Portfolio Committee of Human Settlements by the Department of Human Settlements, by Mr. Zungu's team. They presented this report with all the problems, and when we went for the report, it was just very worrying for us putting all these amounts together, an amount of time that's lapsed. Since the 2017 storm, there was another storm over December, January 2018, and then another massive storm in April 2018 that did a lot of damage all across the province. And as you've just said in your news, we've now had our 4th tornado in the province. So the storms are just coming because of climate change and all the difficulties as a coastal province that we have with that. And our concern is if we continue having the storm damage, but we haven't even fixed the damage from 2017, it's just going to be a knock-on effect, and it's going to take years and years for people that's been suffering now to receive their help then.
All right. Mdu, let's go to you now, and perhaps explain to us firstly how the Provincial Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, as well as your department structure, funds for disaster relief and now for the storm damage as well. How do the departments work in this regard?
Yeah, thanks, Leon. I think one needs to clarify some issues here. As we are saying, our role as human settlements comes in after the whole assessment has been done. But in this case, let's also go back to clarify. The disaster of October 2017, as we've already quoted, the money came in this year, in February 2019. A sum of 100 million came in. And if you think of it, our financial year ends in March 2019. And we were able to even help eThekwini with 46 million going direct to eThekwini on the same month of March, before our year end. And so that's why when the statement came out, we were quite shocked to find out we were not able to spend our money. Because already, if you look at that track record, 2 years we waited for that money to come in. Now when it comes in this financial year, we had to really disperse of it to eThekwini, which had already incurred using its own internal funds to repair areas of even hostels in Cliplands and other areas around Umlazi. And that money was not enough. So immediately when it came in February this year, in the fifth administration, we were able to disperse that 46 million rand. And the other balance of it, if you think of it, we only had much to spend, that 53, the balance of 54 million. And from our side, working in Ugu, we deployed a contractor. In that month alone, we were able to spend that 4 million. We requested a rollover of 50 million rands, which we reported to the same report that the member is quoting. And that one, we've already been granted even approval to continue, because already on the ground, our contractor is working in the area of Ugu. And fortunately, if you look at Ugu, because it was affected both by the festive season and by the October 27 disasters, so in a way, in the area of Ugu has really been heavily affected in all of those disasters that one is quoting. So what's happening currently is that we've got projects in Ugu, which are carrying on the ground. Look at the area of Mzumbe and other areas. And what's happening is that those areas, as we are having projects, the same members that we are also assisting are also members that were affected by the same disasters. So this delay of 2 years, obviously, by the time you go there, you find people have already benefited in one of our projects, normal projects. Because we are a high-performing province on the other side. We have never had any money going back and leaving this province. Even now, we are waiting for additional monies to come to the province based on a good track record. So that's why I'm really puzzled by the other member, because our report was clearly indicating that 2-year delay and how we've acted and how we continue to act. Then we come back to Tegwini in that regard, because Tegwini got that one of October 2017, got that one of festive season disaster, and again they were affected, even the April disaster. And as a result, in our business plan this financial year, we've got 247 that's going to eThekwini. We have already dispersed 121 million, 126 million to eThekwini. Okay, and they've already built about 161 units on the ground. And by the end of this financial year, we should have already dispersed close to 247 million. Okay. So the work really for human settlements and provision that is there, it all demands of us to work together with communities. As we have seen, the Transit Camp of East Pingo, for example, demands that total relocation, because they are in the way of that flood stricken area. And obviously we need cooperation of other residents in the area of East Pingo, because they are also saying not in my backyard. But what we have said is to work with those communities to say, allow us to put these communities in safe areas around the Tegwini. And one of those areas is next to you as residents of East Pingo. Right. And those are the issues that the leadership has been working with, and cooperating and also going to those communities.
Let's just get a little bit more clarity here then. So, I mean, we've got two completely different versions, and you're both sitting next to each other in the Durban Studios. Now, we need to get to the bottom of this, and what would be really great is to actually have somebody from one of these districts, like Ugu, sitting there and talking to us about how they feel that their life has been changed through these funds. So we got the DA saying that these funds have not been spent. You're saying they have been spent, and we've helped people tremendously in the area. So, Martin, perhaps maybe you can just come in a little bit and respond to what Mdu has said. I mean, he has claims that they've spent this fully and people in the area have benefited through what they have done to assist.
Well, no, what is very clear is two things. Mdu has acknowledged there's a 2-year delay. How can we have a 2-year delay in helping people with storm damage? Storm damage is a very immediate thing. Your needs are very immediate. And it's not appropriate for us to wait 2 years to assist people. The second thing is that the 200 million, according to the report, has not yet been released. And we're already halfway through the financial year. To now say we're going to be able to spend the 200 million when already we're halfway through the financial year, I think is overly optimistic because of the delays that we've already been faced. We received another report just last week on the second quarter spending of the department, where the department again acknowledged that the money for this financial year has not yet been released because of the first amount not yet being fully spent or the documentation not yet being presented to the department, and that money can thus not be released. That is in the report. And I cannot foresee in any way that we will be able to spend that full amount in this financial year if we've already had such a delay being halfway through the financial year. On the ground, people in Ugu, I'm a constituency head. I work in the Ugu district, and on the ground there, the houses are still damaged. The informal settlements are still affected by these storms that happened over the last few years. And as I also said previously, my big concern is that we have to streamline. We have to get better at this. We have to learn from our mistakes. We can't wait 2 years to help people.
Yeah.
It is very clear with global climate change that KZN is bearing a large part of the brunt of the change in our climate. And storms, which a couple of years ago, I moved to Durban 10 years ago, and storms like this was almost unheard of then. Now it's a normal occurrence for us almost. And we have to get better to assisting our people when these storms hit our province.
Yeah.
We have to get the help to them faster. And we have to make sure that money that's released gets to the people on the ground. And that's where the problem is. The money has not gotten to the ground here to assist the people.
Yeah. Okay, so Mdu, let's again get you to respond to this. And this is the reality. I mean, 2 years in delayed. I mean, imagine if it was your home and the money's sitting there and the assistance is there for you. It has been given for you to get a better life. But the government sits on it for 2 years before it does anything. Now, perhaps you can respond to that.
Leanne, the money, as I indicated, all the money that we have received came in this financial year. It was a 2017 disaster. The money came in February 2019. It's not as if the money was in our books. There was no money in our books for this disaster of 2017. The assessments were being done, and when they were finished, the money came in February 2019. You can even go to the previous MEC's, Belinda Scott's pronouncements, when she gave us 100 million, 46 was for eThekwini and 56 was for Uku. And we've acted on this. That's why I'm saying we were able to spend that money even at eThekwini, and that one was done. So the money, as soon as it touches us in our books, we're able to spend it. But at the same time, don't just indicate the constituency of Mr. Meyer, which is Melwood especially, is a formal area which we have also been attending to. And obviously this was not a declared area as part of the other settlements that were declared. So as this is raising, we know that he's touching base with the Melwood and others, but we're helping him there as much as a formal township that the municipality needs to fund, because they receive the money direct for those kind of areas. It's not areas that were affected like informal settlements where we work in Masineng and the others. So that's why we need to clarify some of the issues here, because sometimes it attacks as if it's us who are holding funds for some of the constituencies, whereas definitely we know the settlements that were affected, and we know the beneficiaries that we have in our books. That's why I'm saying sometimes you see Leanne as if we are talking across each other, but definitely he needs to be very much specific when he responds and say, Melwood, we know Zungu is not belonging to you, and it's that in the books of the municipality through the grant that they got on the same grant, because some of the monies went direct to municipalities and some of it went to us. And Tino have accounted for what is coming to us. And that's why we're saying we'll be able to spend our money. And even now we've got contractors. Look at the recent one that he asked as well in the same statement of Empolweni. Empolweni, which is New Hanover, where tornado struck. We've been able to work on that area, and we've finished even our intervention there. So we've been asking, there was no fund that came through, we to use our own internal funds. So that's why we're saying, from us, as I'm sitting here, we are already requesting additional funding, because it's not only areas that were declared that are affected. Other areas that are totally not even declared, we are using our own internal funds, and even affecting projects that are running on the ground. So that's why I learned that when we talk, even in our reports, we are very specific as to indicate which are those areas that were affected, and what are we doing about the areas that were non-declared. Because even areas which were non-declared are supposed to be assisted, you know. So those are the issues. From our side, as I'm sitting, we don't have any under-expenditure. In fact, we are looking for more money in that. And he knows, from the books that we showed to him, we have to request for more additional funds to meet our commitments.
Yeah.
Because really these disasters, even Zululand, where it's happening, it's areas where we're already working. If you look at the December and January kind of disasters of this year, you'll find that those areas that were affected now are the same areas where we are already working. Our contractor who's working in Zululand, over the weekend, even indicated to us that one of the houses that we're busy putting up was affected by lightning. Because we are already on the ground. And that's why I'm saying the honorable member in this case, somehow he always cannot really get exactly what we are trying to say.
Let's just look at another report, because I'm reading a report here, and this was about probably maybe 2 weeks ago. It was in the City Press newspaper. And there's also findings from, or research undertaken by Outer into the eThekwini municipality. It's finding that, I'm just quoting, it's saying that the salary bill of the municipality continues to rise when it comes to respective members like yourself, double the consumer price index at an average of 12% per annum, and yet the municipality has underspent on repairs and maintenance to the tune of 10.2 billion rand. So this is not necessarily just the DA. This is another report that is finding that whether it comes to different areas within KZN, the maintenance, the defunct municipalities that are not looking after infrastructure, and we know that the storms are coming in and wreaking havoc. It's very hard to defend this when you have things like this hanging over different municipalities' head in the eThekwini municipality. How do you defend this now?
Ma'am, it's not a case of defending. I think in that case, COGTA will have to answer. Because here, as I'm sitting, human settlements, I'm dealing with human settlement issues. And we're called here to really clarify the issues around our under-expenditure, because we're told that we are underspending. And so that element on its own, COGTA, as experts on the field of municipal finance and governance in that regard, will have to assist you.
And I respect that, but the reality is that it seems to be a trend within the municipality. I mean, if we go back to, we're talking about flood disaster now, but if we have to go back and we talk to, I think it was from 2015 when the drought was there, in February this year, we spoke to 220 million rand that just disappeared into thin air that was meant to go to struggling farmers in the area, and they didn't receive a cent of it. So, you know, the idea of missing funds, underspending funds, this is nothing new. It's something that continues to plague your province.
Ma'am, as I'm indicating, with us as Human Settlements, even now, we're just in our last min-mac, we're being promised additional funds based on our performance. If you look at our track record for the past 4 years, we spent 13 billion, 100%. 13 billion, 100% for the past 4 years, getting about 609 million additional funds from other underperforming provinces. So even now, as I'm sitting, that's why I'm saying he knows our track record and he has seen our books. So really, for him to really go out and put 342 million underspent to our books, it's really unfair, because that money as it is, we need that money to run even these operations based on the kind of commitments that we are getting. And it's very difficult to go back to committees and say we cannot do it because of money. So what we normally do is to really divert from underperforming projects to other areas. And that's how we are normally able to even meet our commitments. So with us, really, those issues, if you look even our audit findings, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. So in the same way that we have tried even to avoid irregular expenditure, even on these operations on disaster, because any funds that come in after 2 years to you will not be treated as an emergency in that case. We have got to follow proper procurement. They've done it, and now that's why I'm saying we're on the ground within the same financial year, and we'll be able to meet our commitments. So that's why I'm saying, if ever he says underspent, it would have been better if we had finished the financial year and we have to say we didn't spend the money. But as it is now, we're still in the financial year and we're spending.
All right, so come in.
Please, Martin, please do come in.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, the AG report unfortunately has been a deterioration in the findings in the AG report on the Human Settlements Department. It's gone a bit backwards. But the reality is, let's stick to the reality on the ground for people. Of the 46 million rand for eThekwini, eThekwini has not yet given us proof of what has been spent. So we have to assume either it's not been spent or we haven't seen it yet. So for us, on the books there, hasn't been spent. That's why the new money has not yet been released. Of Ugu, and this is in the report that came to the committee, of Ugu, the 53 million, only 3 million has already been spent. They say contractors on the ground. On the report, we got contractors only on the ground in October 2019. The storm was October 2017. This is a 2-year delay. And we can twist our words and throw things around and make things different. For the reality for the people on the ground, they've been waiting 2 years for help from the government to assist them. And this is not the rich, this is not the middle class. These are poor people who are dependent on government help. And they've been waiting 2 years. And that we can't lose sight of this very true reality. For 2 years, people on the ground has been waiting for assistance, and it's taken this long to reach them.
So if I may ask this question, Mdu, I mean, if people have waited 2 years for assistance, what have you done for the people that have been affected now by these 4 tornadoes that have hit your province? And people are desperate at this point. Temporary housing, shelter, are you assisting them in any way?
Definitely, and it means you didn't catch me when I said Mbolweni, which is New Hanover. The Premier went there, I went there, people were assisted. Same kind of intervention. Unfortunately, land is owned by the church there. We couldn't put any we didn't put any permanent structures for now. We had to put temporary interventions. for the communities there. And even if you go there, you'll be able to see that we've been able to respond. And there we are not using any other funds, we're using our own projects funds to really assist in those areas. The same in Zululand, as I've indicated, in Bergville. Unfortunately, in Bergville, Leanne, if you go and check, we've got a project running there which is called Emawasi. And one of our trainees, because we've got an SN Public Works program of training the locals, passed on, because the house that was affected was one of our trainees, which shows that in all of these areas, I'll quote you, there are projects that are running. And unfortunately, when these storms hit, it also affects some of the infrastructure that we are busy working on. So that's why I'm saying from us, as I'm sitting here, we are able to even move funds from our own running projects to even assist in the current interventions that we are busy with. In Zululand, as it is, the contractor that is there is already going around in areas of Tseza and Sugas to assist and check exactly what other areas that needs to be assisted with our teams. So, as I'm saying, the report that went out, it was quite unfortunate because it means was not able to really gather what we're trying to indicate. The delay of 2 years that was there was beyond our own control, but when the money came in, we have to even spend that money, and that's what we've done. Even when the HE goes and checks those areas, it's going to check and monitor. When we said we've did this kind of intervention in this area, it's going to find what we've done. Not a case of going there and check and monitor to find that the money was spent, but there was no delivered. Because he knows we've really been trying.
Yeah, I have to leave it there, unfortunately, due to the interest of time. But we thank you so much, both of you, for joining us here on the program. We were in conversation there with DA KZN Human Settlement Spokesperson Martin Meyer, as well as Mdu Zungu, who is the head of department for KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlements. They were both in our Durban Studios. So you heard two versions of the same story. And I tell you what, this is, I think, where we need to take our cameras once again, as we have been traversing around the country. We've been listening to politicians and their stories, but I think you want the real story, you go and you speak to the people in that area, you take the cameras and you allow that truth to come out. And I think perhaps KZN is the next venue for one of our municipal broadcasts that we've been doing. All right, so it's just gone 8 o'clock.